Although keto and carnivore have helped so many people solve all kinds of diseases, right? Diabetes, heart problems, skin problems. We are constantly being told that it's dangerous and that we should not do keto or carnivore long term. That this is just something that's short term positive, long term going to get you in trouble. The standard American Canadian diet is causing us to have metabolic health problems, obesity problems. We're just generally not doing well on these diets. One thing that frustrates me is that doctors will acknowledge that keto or carnivore can absolutely help people with their weight management. Doctors will acknowledge that carnivore is a great kind of elimination diet that can help you identify any allergies that you possibly have. But then they'll turn around and tell you that you can't do it long term. And they're going to tell you that there's no studies that show that long term this could possibly be healthy. It's strange to me that we are encouraged to take the medication that doctors prescribe to solve the complications that eating the wrong foods create. And we are told if we don't take them, we're going to have bad repercussions. But then we are scared away from eating whole food, natural foods. We're told that those foods are going to make us sick. We're told that those natural whole foods that our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, how far do I have to go back to make my point here? That all of these normal people were eating that kept us healthy all those years before we created these medications, that's what's going to make us sick. Years ago, doctors were involved in figuring out what was wrong with us. They would listen to our complaints, right? What symptoms do you have? And we would tell them the symptoms that we have. What are you eating? How much sleep are you getting? Are you drinking water? They would ask a bunch of questions. You getting any exercise? They would ask a bunch of questions because they needed to understand what our situation was in order to best advise us on the course of action that would lead to our better health. Today, they're not asking questions. We barely get 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes at the outside with our doctor to try to, as quickly as possible, tell them 2 or 3 of the things that are happening for us so that they can look at a chart and pick the medical problem that they have a corresponding drug that they can prescribe to us. And we just hope for the best after that. Does the drug solve the problem that Violet was living? And it's trial and error, Wellness Warrior. If that doesn't work, the next time you go back and say, I still have the problem, they just try something else. And nobody's thinking about the fact that this medication that you just gave me, it has negative side effects. Well, what I learned recently is that, no, that's not even true. It has effects that we want and effects that we don't want. And we're kind of hoping that the effects that we want matter more than the effects that we don't want, happen more than the effects that we don't want. But they are aware that there will be effects that we don't want because you're ingesting something that's having an impact. Why is this okay? Why is it okay for doctors to just trial and error say, try this? And they don't say it like that, by the way. They say, oh, I diagnose you with this condition and therefore you need to take this medication. That's how they say it. As if they know for sure. As if they are confident that that is what you have. And they are not confident. They're not. You know, one of the things that I do agree with is that obviously doctors need to be able to try to help. And so if we were to constantly get angry and go after doctors who are actually trying to help, then we would be in a problem, right? Because it would scare doctors away from trying to help us, because every time they make a mistake, they would be in a problem. But the flip side of the coin is, if what you're doing is just prescribing a medication based on, yeah, it could be that, maybe it's that, rather than asking me more questions and being really, really sure before you put something in my system that's harmful, you're not really trying to solve my situation. You're just trying to tick me off that I came into the office and you offered me a solution to a guess you had. And that frustrates me, Wellness Warrior. And if I tell you that I'm eating healthy, if I tell you that I'm trying to solve this with natural foods, you get upset. You get angry. You actively try to convince me that I'm making a mistake. It shouldn't be like that. Or you kind of laugh at me. Yeah, Dr. Google, or yeah, homeopathic. Yeah, okay. Come back to me when you're ready for real science. Why is food not real science? The thing that keeps us alive every single day. Why is understanding food and eating the right foods not part of real science? Why is that considered quackery? Exactly 4 years ago from when I'm filming this, we lived one of the biggest experiments to date, where, the world was in chaos, people were getting sick, and pharmaceutical companies created a solution that they were just telling us, this is the answer, right? Take this medication and everything is going to be okay. And they swore up and down that, yes, we tested it enough, right? Like, this is safe for humans. Well, let me tell you about my experience with this tested idea. I went to a clinic to see if I had antibodies, because I was pretty sure I had gotten sick at the very, very beginning of it, because I work with the public. So, and I was sick for weeks. And when I finally figured out what was going on in the world, I was like, oh, maybe I was sick. Maybe I got it. And when I went, just months later, they informed me that, well, you can't tell if you have antibodies this much later, even if you had it. So you need to get another shot regardless. First of all, I found out that was a lie. But then I asked them to test me anyways. But then I also said, well, I have thalassemia. I just want to make sure that I'm not taking something that's going to cause me to be sick, because I have thalassemia. So I'm diagnosed. And they said to me, so he said to me, the doctor, not the nurse, the doctor said to me, yes, they tested for thalassemia. People with thalassemia have no problem. Wellness Warrior, this is months into the story. This is not years into the story. This is months into the story. That you tested people with thalassemia? So, why that, I think, proves that they are willing to lie to us, to straight up just say whatever they need to say to get us to purchase the medications that they want us to purchase, is this. Thalassemia in the global world exists. 1.7% of the population have thalassemia. And that's all kinds of thalassemia. I'm not even going into the beta versus alpha versus just thalassemia in general, 1.7%. And in the United States, where all the testing, and in Canada too, where the testing is going to happen. So North America, it's 1 in 100,000 people. That's less than 1%, Wellness Warrior. That's less than even, like, it's 0.001%, I believe. But they're telling me that they took the time to test for that, to make sure that people like me, when they could be testing for all the other much more obvious and occurring medical conditions that the more larger majority of people would know. They didn't test for that. That was a bold-faced lie, right? He didn't go to a computer to double check that information to say, come back to me and say, oh my goodness, Violet, like they actually tested for that. You're fine. No, as soon as I said I have thalassemia, he said they tested for that. Like everybody on the planet has thalassemia. Of course they tested for that. It was a bold-faced lie. My faith in medical, which was already really, really low before that appointment, completely plummeted to 0. If in the future I get told by any doctor that I have any condition and I need any kind of procedure, not only am I going to verify what they're telling me that I need, I'm going to probably get 5 second opinions to verify the first person, the second person, and the fourth person, because doctors will just say whatever. And what's more interesting is that on the few occasions that I have gotten second opinions, it's interesting to me how the doctor will start off saying something slightly different until they finally look in my file and see what the previous doctor said. And then they'll come back around to, but also it could be this, which I've had happen. They say what they're told to say. And that's not why we go to the doctor. We go to the doctor for the doctor to look at our specific situation and then give us advice for our specific situation. Not to tell us the party line, not to tell us what they think we want to hear, and not to tell us what their governing bodies tell them to say, which will make money for the system, right? Keep us kind of sick by just giving us medication when there is an actual solution that we could take, which is the food solution, by the way. If anybody is confused by what I'm saying, let me say it there right now. It's the food solution. There's a real world, eat the right food, you will do better solution that we are not given, that we should be given. It really does frustrate me that depending on why we're talking to the doctor, we get this very different idea of how similar or different we are. If I'm talking to the doctor because so-and-so did this diet and it helped them and I want to try it, then I'm going to be told how different we all are and that, my condition isn't necessarily going to be solved by what they did anyway. And so I should eat standard, and they're just lucky that their condition was solved by eating what they ate. But then if I go in and say that, well, I'm different and this seems to be working for me, no, everybody needs the medication. I want us to think about the fact that maybe the fact that I grew up eating Caribbean food and you grew up eating maybe Chinese food, or maybe you grew up eating Italian food, or maybe you grew up eating, insert your country of origin here food. Maybe what really matters most is the baseline. The fact that all of those countries are having diets that are based on carbohydrates. So no matter where you're from, the base of the foods you were eating, carbohydrates. And if that's the common denominator and the entire world is increasing in obesity and getting sicker and sicker and sicker because we're eating the wrong things and our body manages until it can't manage anymore, right? That's how that works. Maybe what really matters is getting back to baseline. So we need to see what the new baseline that we've created of high carbohydrate is, and then get back to the correct baseline, which would be more meat and lower carb vegetables, and eating less high carbohydrate vegetables and less processed food. As a matter of fact, if we could just eliminate processed foods altogether, that's the ideal story, Wellness Warrior. They're willing to test drugs on us for profit. I just want you to keep that in mind. Are you willing to test whole food, normal, natural food, real food, the stuff you go to the grocery store and buy? I suggest you try it because it's way cheaper and way safer than medication. So let me know if you decide to throw caution to the wind and try eating real food and see what it does to your health. And it isn't try eating it for 5 minutes. You need to do this at least a year if you want to get the benefit and really see what happens to your health. Real food, no more junk food, no more processed garbage. I'd love to know if you do it, and I'd love to know if you do it with keto or carnivore. Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about this.